I'm just gonna start this stream. Let me just get this all set up. There we go. That's good enough. All right. So, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another round of I do my monthly update stream. So if you're new here, the every beginning of the month, like when the month starts, I do a little tiny update stream. It's unscripted, so expect a lot of weird dead air and stuff. And usually I kind of do some stuff in the background as a little filler. And in this case today we're doing a bit of work on the videos that actually brought me here. That is why I'm kind of saying this, why I'm kind of popular at the moment, or why I've experienced a slight surge in popularity. And that is the project with the server. There's still a lot of work to be done. Because let's see, we've got the drivers to do, but I'm not making a full video out of it. And you'll soon, I've milked the topic a bit much already, so I feel like it's not adequate to keep doing as such. So there we go. We're not. So that's the long and short of that. And yeah. But we will have more varied type of content. Now, before I do drop into what kind of content we got, I think it's best that I explain why I do this monthly stream. I do it for many reasons, mostly because at first, okay, it looks like YouTube may be having some problems with bitrate. Oh boy, here we go. Again, this is also a bit of a test stream because, as it turns out, we are going, 2,500. I think that should be like 5,000. There we go. Apply that, and now, come on, OBS. There we go. It should be way faster now. Anyways, sorry for if it sounded or looked weird, because as it turns out, I had the bitrate set to OBS's default. How fun. Anyways, so this stream is an update stream. It's because, well, usually this channel doesn't have a lot of content, so I tend to live stream as kind of a nice little way to fill in the gap while still posting something and making it look like this channel is relatively active. It's kind of the worst practice for me, but I do that. I do it this way. And there's a lot of other... And it's also because this channel is a random channel. This is a dumping ground for the kind of content I do. But most of the time, I'm very certain on what I want to make. And yeah. So, speaking of that, I think we'll go through the, calendar, or go through what we've got. So, next week, there's a Splatfest. I follow the Splatoon community pretty heavily, as you'll soon see. In fact, if you've watched any of my previous live streams, that's typically the game that I'm streaming in the background. This time I'm not, because I feel like it would be cool if I was trying to at least look busy. I don't know why. It kind of has to be that way. Yeah, and then after that, we're going to be having a... Oh, I'm trying to find the words for it, but I'm making an episode, and in fact, I'm actually going to pop open a terminal here and kind of tease a bit of stuff about it. So, and I'm going to pop in NeoFetch because I'm a Linux user, and I'm going to do that. Notice anything about the graphics card? I've gone AMD. Now, in the past, this spot used to say NVIDIA RTX 2060 or something along those lines. That's changed, and that's because, and this is my gaming machine. Normally I do this on my older laptop, but I normally do these streams on my older laptop, but I've got my gaming machine here, so I do it here. Yeah, the NVIDIA card that I had in this thing was not treating me very well, so I decided to upgrade it, so we're AMD now. I went with AMD because really it's, because the drivers actually work. One of the things, because this is a gaming PC that I'm on, it's gaming. And with the NVIDIA card, for some reason, I just haven't been able to do gaming. Because all my gaming is done exclusively on Linux. So if I can avoid using Windows wherever I can, that is an absolute win for me. And most of the games I play work perfectly fine. And ooh, I was just clipping out there. Anyways, so I've unfortunately though the drivers, the official drivers, because I just skipped straight ahead to the official drivers because the Novio or Novao or however you pronounce it, those drivers weren't doing pretty well. Which is funny because I left the literal moment that the developers behind the open source drivers, when they actually announced that they were able to get some big leaps in gaming performance, which is pretty funny. But I don't know, I was using NVIDIA's official drivers and they were just unstable. And they were getting so unstable that the graphics card was acting like it was just being disconnected. Like I had just ripped it out of the PCI slot while the computer was on. It acted like that at least. And, or tried to hot swap it with itself. Something silly like that. So I went AMD. It's much better now. Every game I play runs absolutely excellently. In fact, I was actually going to load into some games with it, but I decided against it. I don't know, because I've got some stuff to do. Anyways, so where we are now is, after that, I'm not too sure on the content that I'm going to make, because we'll still have like 2 weeks left we'll have that one content. For this one last bit of content, I was actually thinking of kind of switching it up and going back to more of a video essay type video, because one of the things, because this surge in popularity that I've experienced, and I'm probably going to get more into that later on in this stream, this little surge in popularity I had, this is not my first time. This is not my first rodeo with that. It was earlier on, in fact, 2 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. Boy, how time flies. I did videos for Nintendo with Nintendo's Game Builder Garage stuff, which is mostly why I focus on a lot of Nintendo stuff these days. I did some stuff about Game Builder Garage, and right now the online community for that is non-existent. And I kind of want to do a video talking about it, because in the past I actually had a series where I talked about dead or dying online services and online things and stuff. Although I only made like one episode and never talked about it again, or never did it again. I might bring that one back, because I think, it'll also be a good test, because starting with my next actual official upload, with the one about the graphics card update, I'm planning on moving to a more scripted format, kind of like how a lot of the retro tech YouTubers do it. Like if you watch any retro tech YouTuber, you'll see they'll probably do something like a restoration video, and they'll have it where they do the thing they have the actual process, like the procedure, what they've done, as just B-roll. Like they're just showing it on camera. They don't film it. They just kind of have it. You're kind of off to the side, and you're just watching them do it, and then they narrate over it to keep it less boring. I'm going to switch to that, because recently I've been getting, with the influx of comments and stuff, one comment really stuck out to me, which was, quite a few, which were pointing out things like the ums, and everything in between. When that happened, it was because the way I do my videos and live streams is unscripted. Like I am literally running off of mental bullet points. I have no notes of anything. I just have bullet points. I just do things. I could even pull up good old Nextcloud notes now that works. I don't know. Actually, I'll probably not. But if I did, it would probably show nothing. Maybe like some small things and stuff about, Anyways, so it's moving to but as that video is shown, it's definitely moved to a much more, it's proven that unscripted is generally not the best for how I do videos, and it's definitely not the best for my way of doing things. So we're just going to be moving away from that. It's honestly probably the best thing I've probably the best idea I'll have. It'll take a bit longer to make videos. The big reason my content is mostly unscripted and is not as heavily edited as others is because really I only really spend like a good 2-3 hours on this stuff, which is not as much as I should be, especially if I want to actually get some semblance of popularity, even though I'm not really concerned about it. And coming to that fact, I really wanted to talk about what happened last month with the popularity, because I'm like, wow. Yeah, because the video that made me popular, the one where I started on this server, which actually is the first video which this project all pertains to, that video just blew up. I don't know what happened. It just YouTube decided to recommend me out of amongst other videos. I was just recommended. I guess a bunch of people saw it, clicked on it, you know. I guess things just really lined up, and now it's sitting pretty at like 1.9k views last time I checked, which was about an hour ago. So yeah, the response was pretty insane to that. And yeah, and if you're a new subscriber to the channel, welcome. You know, it's a bit different. You know, it's a random channel. It's everything that I'm into is on here. It's a dumping ground. But yeah, I grew by about 40 subscribers. I have, yeah, even the last video, the video that came after it, the part 2, that did pretty well. I am used to getting as many views as I have with those videos, but not that fast. It's just insane. Yeah, wow. So I really have you to thank, and I really have the weird algorithm, the weird bug in the algorithm that got me here. So really, thanks for watching all this stuff, especially as we near 200 subscribers. We are getting somewhere. I really did not expect that video to blow up, because really I just posted that video as just, oh hey, look at this. I didn't really expect it to do well. So especially with the level of search engine optimization I did. I barely did search engine optimization on that video. So anyways, let's get into what I am into, bringing the background into the foreground, or just my aimless scrolling for the past 10 minutes, and let's talk about it. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to put the mic down, so expect to kind of turn up the volume a little bit more as I try and get it to sound just about right. Also, don't mind the server just kind of chilling in the background. You know, the device that we got to deal with. So, what we have here is the drivers. Now, they are on GitHub, but what the thing that happened to them is actually pretty interesting, and this is another one of those cases where I have to actually put up some crazy backstory. In fact, let me go to it. So right now, up until like last night, we were running on the code was based on C. I decided to go for C for many reasons, because I felt like if I want to make it like an actual driver, like an actual thing that the system needs to use to do the thing, or at least have systemd be around to talk to it and stuff, I decided I'd write it in C. Oh, you know, I'd like to have it compiled. Also, I'd like it to be quick, or at least fast, because because I really don't want it to take up a lot of CPU usage. Unfortunately, though, turns out that C is a bit of although I do actually have a bunch of experience in C, it's not this world, it's not this part of C that I have experience in. So the plan was that on Linux, at least, in fact, let me pull this up. Actually, it's better in a terminal. At least for one of the items, let's just do this. and this is the same exact OS that the server is running. I know it's a horrible operating system for servers, but deal with it. So my original plan was to do things like get the data for the drivers and get the stuff to send to the Arduino over using this. This is a listing of the proc folder, which on Linux, what that does is it has all the information about your system. So CPU information, you can find it in here. And there's quite a lot. In fact, I think I had a manual page open for it. I have to scroll back quite a bit. But if I keep going back, in fact, there's another round of that. If I do this, it has like a listing of what each of these files does, and I'm just scrolling through it pretty quickly. And if you have a Linux box, you can probably just read into this. But I think there's also some websites that archive these manual pages. Really useful tools. So my plan was to actually get it from proc. In fact, let me go into, let me just actually show where I was going to get my CPU stuff from. So you got your CPU up here, and it's really interesting because this way it's all designed for CPUs. It looks like a bunch of random numbers, but it's kind of easy. There's a website that actually has a code listing for how to get the CPU info from it. Unfortunately, though, when I wrote it in a way that such that it's kind of stupidly written. So I designed this. Unfortunately, though, it didn't really work right. It's not reading into the code right. So I've decided that really it's going to be harder, and you'll see later on that this was kind of a correct choice because this does more than just read the CPU info. Yeah, so what we've got here is it just reads the CPU info, it gets CPU usage from there, it takes away this first word, this CPU word, because it's not necessary, and it reads, and how the website had it, which was Rosetta code, I believe, they had it where, in fact, they actually had a version of the code that would have worked and would have been a great standalone app, but anyways, what happened is that, yeah, so it would just add up all these things. It's supposed to read from it, add all the data up, and then this fourth one here, this fourth item on this list, it's supposed to kind of store that and just subtract it from the total, and then do some other math and stuff, and yeah, it's kind of complex. I mean, you can see how complex it is by the whole lack of data on there. Again, the manual page actually has kind of like a little kind of an anatomy of what each of these numbers mean type thing, and I kind of grasp what these numbers mean, only kind of. In the past it was much easier because there were like 8 numbers and not 10 like there are now. But then again, these last two are usually 0, so it doesn't matter. But it didn't read it right, and yeah. But really what I did is, last night I kind of made the decision to switch to Python, which really would have made it, which is what I should have done in the first place. And it really makes the idea of the decision to continue writing it in C, it makes this idea of doing it in C a bit, it makes me glad that I made this decision, because there's still some really difficult things in Python, because really reading CPU usage was the easiest part in this entire thing, you know. So CPU percent, it's real easy to get as long as you have psutil. In fact, this entire code could be written in psutil. In fact, let's switch over here because this is where all the code is. Now this is basically enough to get the driver running. This isn't enough to do all the advanced things that I wanted it to do, but if we read into it, it just has all the basic stuff, all the cool things we can do. So yeah, CPU percent was probably the easiest thing to do. And although I kind of picked up hints of this when I did when I originally did it, with C. One of my plans was to have a thing where, oh, how can I describe it, where it would have a delay on it, because of course with my goal of it not wanting to take up as much CPU power, I decided to have it where it would wait out a certain amount of time in order to talk to the computer, in order to talk to the Arduino and not bomb the entire CPU usage up and make it take up every CPU cycle. I did not know that reading a CPU percentage actually required a delay time, so really it killed two birds with one stone here. So yeah, so it has the wait signal in it already, which is great. Yeah, and then we have all that. Yeah, so it just converts it to that. It converts it to a PWM value, and it looks beautiful when you get it running. I might, as a YouTube short, I might post like a demo or something, or maybe I'll probably put it in the README somewhere. But yeah, it really looks cool. So it gets the CPU usage. That's the easy part. And then there's reading system temperature. That one is a bit more difficult. Well, it was a bit more difficult, but it led on to a bunch of other things like reading into fan speed, because fan speed and temperature can be read by PSUtil, but it's like really hard to do that. It's because, at least, actually no, it's a bit easier, I'll say, but it requires that you parse through data, because it's all in a it's in a nice list. It's almost like, at first when I saw it when I was working with this segment, I thought it was like JSON or something, because it had the brackets that were, it had those brackets. So I was like, oh, that looks like JSON. And it also had things, listed like yeah, there you go. It was kind of like that, and I was like, oh. But luckily it wasn't. It was just a simple matter of, it was just items. That's good enough. So yeah, we got temperature 1, temperature 2. It just implements all that. This code works absolutely perfectly, and I'm probably going to be releasing this later on as like a nice little beta, because we still have some stuff to do. There's still a lot of stuff to accomplish in the first place, but otherwise it works pretty fine. I'm fine with just leaving this on and releasing it. I'm probably going to package it up as like a Debian file or something, and have or maybe at least a shell script. So this way it can also install a systemd service, because we need one of those in this, or at least I do, because I'd like to have it run with the server, because otherwise it's just going to be, otherwise the red blinker LED, as you saw if you watched the last video, is just going to be blinking the whole time, and we won't have anything to do about it. So yeah, it works perfectly fine. The only thing that really will bring it out of beta is when I get support for reading from a configuration file done, as well as making a utility, or at least adding a utility to this code to make it able to be configured. But there will be some stepping stones. Really, a lot of this is down to things like scope creep, which I really don't like, but always happens to my projects. Luckily though, I've been able to kind of curb it here. And maybe in the future I might revisit the C version. I'm probably gonna make this Python edition the main fork, and then we're just gonna move the version that's in C is into like a beta fork, and then we're just gonna have main, and just have this as the main version, because this is pretty good for what it does. It works just fine. It can communicate things with the Arduinos just fine, and everything works. And yeah, also in the world of stuff. But what's funny is that the code that I thought was absolutely perfect and didn't have bugs had bugs. No shock there. It's not a shock of shocks. Yeah, well, but I'm working on fixing them. I've added a bunch of features to it, because there's a lot of things that I really wanted. I wanted the ability to have it recite what version it is, or force a lamp reset. And when I was developing the drivers, I actually ran into a problem where a lot of the machines that I was running it on didn't seem to understand or didn't have the ability to read the data of what their fans were saying. Apparently, that requires ACPI to be enabled in the BIOS, and I haven't figured out how to do it on the motherboard that the server runs on. So, in order to do that, if it detects, so this way, if we cannot find info on what the fans are doing, what I have it do instead is I just have it where it'll write a D to it, and where it'll have, there's now a new command called D, which will write to the Arduino literally just the letter D, and that'll tell the Arduino to flash the fan out light as a warning that the fan may not be out, but the code that is responsible for finding out if the fan is out or not is not working because the fan cannot be read from, so it just blinks, you know. And I think that should be really a thing for all the other two, for the thermals and other stuff. You know, maybe have them flash if it can't determine anything. But otherwise, yeah, that's really the long and short of what we've got here. It's working just fine. Basically, the only problem we really have is a bug where every so often where if we leave it alone for 30 seconds, which is supposed to turn on the power supply fail light, or the one red light on the actual main side of things, it's supposed to turn that off, or it's supposed to turn that back on and tell it to flash again, because yeah, it's not, because you didn't safely shut it down, so it has to warn the user about that, and it's not. So I gotta figure that one out. I might not do it live because although my live streams are never really long, this is kind of usually the cutoff point for many of these live streams. So yeah, if you like what yeah, I think I'm gonna end. So with that being said, I think I'm gonna end this stream here. I tend to do these streams for not as long as usual. Usually, if there's viewership, I tend to go on for longer. Like if there's like people who actually watch it, like it, and interact, you know, then I'll probably stay on for longer. But usually, that's not the case. So typically, So with that being said, that's gonna be it for today's stream. Most people would watch in the VODs, so hello anybody watching in the future. But yeah, with that being said, that's the end of today's episode, if we could call it that. If you're hyped for any of the videos in the future, well, there's a like button, a subscribe button, or if you aren't subscribed, or if you already are subscribed, just stay tuned. Maybe turn on the bell. That'll help out with that kind of helps out with the metrics and all that. I don't need subscriptions, but if you like what I have to say and you like some of my videos, the subscribe button is there. And with that being said, that's it for today's stream. If you like what you saw, well, I've already went over that. And bye.